Welcome, Age of Vintage Society. Faye Dunaway has always been one of the great screen actresses who has been labelled as difficult. Throughout her career, Dunaway has polarised her colleagues for what is either called her difficult attitude or her determined perfectionism to give as good a performance as possible. Why did Faye Dunaway toss a cup of urine into Roman Polanski's face? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. The notorious Faye Dunaway. If we were to ask everyone who the best living actress in Hollywood is, there would be an incredible variety of answers given. One woman who would undoubtedly receive a lot of votes is Faye Dunaway. Beginning in the late 1960s, Dunaway's career proved to be as influential as it was successful. The 1970s in particular were kind to her, as she appeared in classic film after classic film. An icy, elegant blonde with a knack for playing complex and strong-willed female leads. Enormously popular actress Faye Dunaway starred in several films which defined what many would come to call Hollywood's second golden age. During her tenure at the top of the box office, she was a more than capable match for some of the biggest macho stars of the period, including Steve McQueen in The Thomas Crown Affair, Warren Beatty in Bonnie and Clyde, Jack Nicholson in Chinatown, and Robert Redford in 3 Days of the Condor. The 1980s saw her star power diminish, although she was memorable in Barfly and as Joan Crawford in Mommy Dearest. In 2017, Dunaway was an unsuspecting culprit in perhaps the greatest shock in Academy Award history when she mistakenly announced that La La Land had won the Oscar for Best Picture instead of the true winner, Moonlight. As a serious actress, she caused a considerable unease there, heightened by her cool aloofness, then aggravated everyone by being brave, or foolish, enough to sue the producers of her first 2 movies, rather than work with them again except on her terms. When she nearly derailed her career by letting love and work get badly and publicly tangled, she was marked as a permanent outsider, a problem actress. She was born Dorothy Faye Dunaway on 14th of January 1941 in Bascom, Florida. She spent her early childhood in the sandy flatlands of the Florida Panhandle. Dunaway's father, John McDowell Dunaway Jr., was a non-commissioned officer in the United States Army, her mother Grace a housewife. The marriage was strained and Dunaway used make-believe to escape the tension. "People who saw me that day told me I seemed right at home up there," she wrote in her 1995 memoir. She came from a large family of wonderful storytellers, country raconteurs, whose principal entertainment was the theatre of their own front porch or church. In her first year of school, she had a solo spot in the school talent show, enjoying the distance and the comfort I found in being in my own world playing. Despite her regal bearing and glamorous style, she had rather humble beginnings. At 13, when her parents divorced, Dunaway moved with her mum and brother Mac back to Florida from Utah, where they had been living on an army base with her dad. After high school, she went to college to study teaching. Her family assumed she'd marry her childhood sweetheart, a boy named Gene, but Dunaway had other ideas. "I didn't want to marry and be consigned to a world where he made the money and my role was wife," she said. She broke up with Gene and transferred to Boston University to take up a degree in theatre. 2 days after graduating in June 1962, she landed her first Broadway role in the play A Man for All Seasons, aged 21. Excluding members of her family, Dunaway has stated that the most important person in her life was her mentor, William Alfred. A professor at Harvard, Alfred wrote the award-winning play Hogan's Goat, in which Dunaway would act. Dunaway later credited Alfred for teaching her about many subjects beyond merely acting, and even called him the father she'd never had. A film career soon followed, as her first 2 movies, The Happening and Hurry Sundown, were released early in 1967. The role which made Dunaway's career as Bonnie Parker in Bonnie and Clyde was very nearly given to a plethora of other actors. Before Dunaway was cast, the role was offered to Cher, Anne Margaret, Tuesday Weld and Sue Lyon. She became a Hollywood star with her role opposite Warren Beatty in Bonnie and Clyde, which premiered in August 1967. She was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress. As Bonnie Parker, she embodied the spirit of the film, as she often did her best performances, instilling the legendary bank robber with an intoxicating mix of youthful rebellion, vanity and sexuality. To emulate Bonnie's gauntness, she had to quickly lose the 25 pounds she'd gained for Hurry Sundown. I spent weeks working out wearing a 12-pound weight belt, with smaller weights around my wrists to help me burn off the pounds faster, she said. Dunaway, then 27, received her first Oscar nomination for the film. It was also lauded for depicting sex and violence in an artistic way never seen before in mainstream cinema, and ushered in the era of New Hollywood, a period in the late 60s and 70s driven by progressive directors, such as Francis Ford Coppola, and which made stars out of actors like Robert De Niro. For her appearance in Bonnie and Clyde, Dunaway was paid a salary of $60,000, and she reportedly had to give $25,000 of it back for the privilege of being listed as a co-star on the film. Luckily, her cred was boosted so much by her role in the film that just 2 years later Dunaway earned 5 times as much for appearing in The Extraordinary Seaman. Dunaway proved equally adept as a determined insurance investigator pursuing a rakish thief played by Steve McQueen in the Thomas Crown Affair. McQueen was one of many co-stars Dunaway would be romantically linked to. Others included Warren Beatty, Jack Nicholson, Kirk Douglas, Robert Redford, Marlon Brando and Paul Newman. However, apart from a 2-year relationship with married Italian actor Marcello Mastroianni, with whom she starred in 1968's A Place for Lovers, Dunaway refused to entertain on-set affairs. "I have a rule, you know it's going to ruin the performance and ruin the movie, so you don't do that," she once said. Not giving in to the frisson resulted in unforgettable sexually charged scenes between her and McQueen. After appearing in a string of good if unremarkable films, including Little Big Man and The Three Musketeers, she gave a deeply affecting performance in Roman Polanski's classic film noir Chinatown. As Evelyn Mulray, Dunaway depicted a complex and troubled woman in a role that transcended the typical femme fatale and earned her a second Oscar nomination. People were not surprised by Faye Dunaway's alleged diva behaviour. She was fired from her own play for allegedly slapping a crew member. Insiders say it's just the latest in a long string of incidents. Faye Dunaway was fired from the Broadway-bound play Tea at 5 after allegedly creating a dangerous environment in which no one was allowed to wear white lest it distract her. Some people were not surprised. Dunaway created such a hostile environment backstage that she was fired from the production, which was having its pre-Broadway run in Boston. Indeed, the streets of Hollywood and Broadway are paved with tales of bad behaviour by the legendary actress. During the filming of 1974's Chinatown, Dunaway had a habit of urinating into trash cans and a disdain for flushing toilets in her dressing room. She called in Teamsters to do the job, leading to multiple resignations. Once during filming, Dunaway said that she needed a bathroom break, but director Roman Polanski asked her to wait. Later, when he bent down to speak with the actress through a car window, she allegedly responded by tossing a cup of liquid into Polanski's face. It was full of urine. Asked about the incident, Dunaway was quoted as calling the story absolutely ridiculous and saying it doesn't even deserve the dignity of a response. Her pissy behaviour has been so extreme, even other notoriously prickly actors are shocked. James Woods, who worked with Dunaway on the 1976 TV movie The Disappearance of Amy, recalled in an interview how she threw something at me because I ad-libbed a line. She was just so rude. If Betty Davis, also in the movie, can be nice to people, Faye Dunaway ought to be buying them limousines as presents. Davis, said to be one of the most cantankerous women in Hollywood during her era, agreed. When Tonight Show host Johnny Carson asked her to name the worst people in Hollywood, she chose Dunaway. Betty Davis said that Faye Dunaway is the worst person to work with. Dunaway got physical with Rotanya Alder on set of Mommy Dearest. Rotanya Alder recounted her uncomfortable experience with Dunaway. When Jocelyn Brando, who played the journalist, saw me go down after Faye hit me, she said, "I can't afford to be injured. I just spent 6 months in the hospital," Alder recalled. Initially, Frank wanted both me and Jocelyn to pull her off Diana, Scarwid, who played Christina, but she saw Faye was out of control and said, "No way." We did maybe 10 takes and Frank had to deal with it because Faye wasn't going to change what she was doing. I got knocked down maybe twice. She hit me hard in the chest. My first day on the set, she slapped me. Alder, who played the assistant character to Dunaway's Joan Crawford, told that they were filming a scene when, instead of doing a stage slap, she slapped me on the cheek hard and for real. One of the most frequently reported rumours from the set of Mommy Dearest was that Faye Dunaway was a bit of a nightmare. The crew struggled to work with Faye Dunaway. Joan got her way in a ladylike way. Faye was despised because she was so rude to people. Everyone was on pins and needles when she worked, and everyone relaxed when she didn't. I wish Faye had learned from Joan. Regardless of what the film's cast and crew thought of Dunaway, the woman she embodied loved her. According to Inside the Actors Studio, Crawford once said, "Only Faye Dunaway has the talent, class and courage to be a real star." Crawford was a fan of Dunaway. Singer Jill Sobule, who had a hit in 1995 with I Kissed a Girl, recalls Dunaway having similar issues decades ago. Faye Dunaway was hours late and we were all waiting for her, sweating through our costumes on the hottest day of the summer in an un-air-conditioned church. When she finally arrived, she was in the foulest mood and didn't know her lines. She yelled at people and huffed off the set. It was like something out of Valley of the Dolls. Dunaway's shenanigans had not been limited to showbiz settings. She had a full-on Mummy Dearest meltdown. She reportedly demanded that staffers at the Huntington Theatre in Boston get down on their hands and knees and scrub the floor of her dressing room. Before the performance, Dunaway slapped a crew member and threw items at the production staff, who were trying to help her put on a wig. Dunaway's alleged actions prompted the producers to cancel the performance minutes before curtain. Producers said in a statement that they had terminated their relationship with Dunaway. While some people have bad-mouthed her brutally, more on one of them later, directors such as Elia Kazan and Sidney Lumet have proclaimed their admiration and support for her. Dunaway's career in film, TV and on stage was often marked by misfires or controversies, as she developed a reputation for being demanding. To some, she was a dedicated, hard-working perfectionist, with Elia Kazan in a 1993 interview calling her hungry, curious and brilliant, but also highly strung and strong-willed. Her Chinatown director Roman Polanski told Rolling Stone upon release of the 1975 film that Dunaway was a gigantic pain in the arse. Of course, Polanski isn't known as the most reliable source for character assessments. Another way to say difficult, she wrote in her book, is perfectionist, you know. God is in the details, and I do want to get it right. She achieved critical acclaim for playing an alcoholic opposite Mickey Rourke in Barfly, but it was a fleeting triumph in a sea of forgettable roles. In 1994 she was due to play Norma Desmond in Andrew Lloyd Webber's LA production of Sunset Boulevard, but he shut the production down before its run, saying her voice wasn't adequate. Dunaway sued for defamation and breach of contract, settling out of court, but the headlines stung. Composer and producer Andrew Lloyd Webber and his associates announced that Dunaway couldn't sing well enough to handle the vocally challenging role and closed the show, leaving the theatre dark and debts of up to $4 million in ticket refunds, the Los Angeles Times reported at the time. Dunaway sued, claiming that Webber had damaged her reputation. The two reached a confidential settlement the following year. In addition to allegedly verbally abusing crew members, Dunaway was frequently late for rehearsals and refused to allow anyone, including the director and playwright, to look at her during rehearsals. She also failed to learn her lines and was fed lines and blocking through an earpiece, the sources added. But with all at the end, Faye Dunaway should be remembered for brilliant films that tore up the rulebook, not a mix-up at the Oscars. As she once said, "I have had in my career characters that broke new ground, women who took control of their own destiny. One thing I've learned in Hollywood is to fly in the face of conventional wisdom." If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Faye Dunaway? A perfectionist or a person who is the most difficult to work with in Hollywood?